then other steps are possible. One of the tools we developed is a Cascadia Action Step checklist. Like any emergency or disaster, there is no one-size-fits-all checklist. And this one is pretty short. It's only meant to help you consider your situation and get started. Individuals, families, and neighborhoods have different needs, wants, and desires. There won't be enough emergency responders to help us all, so building connections and networks will be very important for neighborhoods and communities to help each other with specialized skills and resources so no one person has to do it all. Today, we're going to review a few action steps you might choose to take. Remember that planning with others can be beneficial and that using a calendar to help organize your steps can be helpful. In an effort to educate Oregonians and prepare for the Cascadia earthquake, resulting tsunami, and other geohazards, the Oregon State University Extension Service created a free online course that consists of 4 modules. The link to the learning modules and supporting materials is at the top of this slide. You will go in to that link and create an account with your name and password, and the course will track your progress, and you'll be able to download a certificate at the end of modules 3 and 4 if you desire. Module 1 shows the evidence of this disaster in the past. Module 2 focuses on the experience of the shaking of 5 to 7 minutes and the immediate steps you should take. Module 3 explores the altered life after the Cascadia Subduction Zone Event and provides tools to be prepared. And Module 4 is optional for the public. It contains additional education for extension professionals, neighborhood leaders, and emergency agency or organization employees or volunteers who can assist before, during, and after the disaster. Each module contains multiple narrated sessions and many additional resources, allowing the participant to delve as deep into the focus of that module as they would like. Module 2 also includes a virtual reality simulation of the earthquake that can help train your brain for the sustained shaking. As a result of viewing the first 3 modules, a survey of those who piloted the course shows that 90% of respondents gained knowledge that helps them understand the probability and effects of the Cascadia Subduction Zone Event. And 95% said they gained knowledge that helps them prepare for the earthquake and helped them advance their disaster preparations. Every respondent said they plan to recommend the course to others. An additional survey of extension professionals who completed all 4 modules was implemented, and statistically significant gains were recorded in all areas, including knowledge about the event, feeling prepared to provide the information to extension audiences about the earthquake, and the importance of preparing for the earthquake, as well as having taken steps to prepare themselves and family. Our Spanish version of these modules and supporting materials is complete. We ran a social media and marketing campaign that started during the week of the Great Oregon Shakeout this last fall that resulted in over 13,000 page views over 3 weeks. Course enrollment doubled, and there were thousands of views and/or downloads of the supplemental materials. We expect to be training OSU Extension volunteers to help us do face-to-face training sessions in their own communities in 2022. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Let's move into 4 different areas of the Cascadia Action Steps checklist. And you can see a copy of that on the right. To review some actions that can be taken. While looking at each section, consider one thing you haven't done, but that you could do. Maybe there's an easy one or one that you could do with a friend or a family member. Part of planning is practicing. In a crisis, it's easy to become distracted and forget the simplest things. With practice, though, you would develop an autopilot reaction. Some people call this muscle memory. Practice the earthquake drill, drop, cover, and hold on during the Great Oregon Shakeout in October and again in April each year. You'll see more tips for this in Module 2 of the course. Get a fire extinguisher and practice using it. And let the kids practice too. by aiming at some wadded up paper on a paper plate outside. When I was training some high school culinary arts students, a quarter of the class was terrified to even touch the fire extinguisher. So we need to get people past that and be ready to act in an emergency. Prepare a written emergency financial plan. Use a free kit from experts. In Module 3, you'll see several free options from reliable resources. Explore earthquake insurance. Some offer lower rates if you secured your water heater to the wall. Make copies of important papers for your emergency kit. Hard copies may be most helpful, but storing on memory sticks or in the cloud could be useful too. Keep at least a half a tank of fuel in your vehicle at all times. This could be your only fuel for weeks or even months. Make written copies of your family communications plan for each family member. A variety of templates can be found in Module 3. Most will include items such as establish a meeting place in my neighborhood or a meeting place outside of my neighborhood. Secure an out-of-area contact person and be sure and look for one with a different area code because those in Oregon, Washington, and Northern California could be jammed. Write down emergency numbers and make a copy for each family member. Find an alternative place to stay. Explore school or daycare emergency plans. And on the coast, regularly scout and walk tsunami evacuation routes when you're there. See modules 1 and 2 for maps and established routes. Whether you live there or you just enjoy visiting. Review, update, and practice your plan every 6 months. So in the chat, I would love to get some feedback from you. Do any of you watch the Weather Channel preparedness tips, simulations, or shows? So in the chat, if you could just share a favorite one. I'm going to continue on here. Here are some tips to prepare for 2 to 4 weeks ready. You probably heard this campaign slogan from our Oregon Office of Emergency Management. But for your home emergency kit, you're going to need a minimum of certain types of things. So storing 1 gallon of water per person per day needed for 2 to 4 weeks. Prepare a system to purify water in case you have access to found water. Assemble a first aid kit. Be able to be your own first responder. Arrange with your doctor for extra medication for 1 to 3 months. Stock up on nutritious food for 2 to 4 weeks. If preserving your own food, be sure to use free, up-to-date, tested recipes and tips from OSU Extension at this link here in the middle of the page. Prepare a sanitation system for managing human waste. Assemble basic tools. Get a NOAA weather radio or find out who has one. Keep cell phones charged. Explore solar power or portable chargers. Duplicate keys. Store cash and small bills. You are going to need some modified emergency kits too, with some or all of these considerations I just mentioned. Additionally, collect photos of you with your children or your pets to help facilitate reunification when documents are not available. Everyone should have grab-and-go emergency kit. As a commuter or traveler, you might want a car or 72-hour emergency kit. For those with jobs or who attend school, a work or school emergency kit will be needed. Young children in daycare, preschool, or elementary school will need a child's comfort kit with a printed family reunification plan in it, as well as a photo of their family. And every pet will need a pet emergency kit. And especially important is vaccination records. So they may be housed with or without you in case of evacuation. having those records will facilitate their comfort greatly. Check and update your kits every 6 months. And I'm wondering if any of you would like to share if you have an up-to-date grab and go bag ready to go at your house. Could you share that in the chat if so? So let's explore this topic here. It's the home. The earth will be shaking and moving for 5 to 7 minutes. So what you can do is minimize tipping in your home and reduce damage and risk of injury. So here are some actions you can consider. Secure some types of heavy furniture to the wall. Secure heavy decorations to the wall. Secure your water heater or your wood stove, your propane tank. Secure your house to the foundation. There's some really easy brackets that you can use if you've got a 1940s style Sears and Roebuck house just sitting on top of a foundation. Add reinforcement to the cripple wall under the house. Reinforce the chimney. And if you're willing to share, tell us whether or not you've secured your water heater to the studs in the wall yet, or you intend to. One thing that gets neglected a lot in preparedness is behavioral health. Strengthening and practicing your emotional response now can be helpful in your everyday life and will be especially helpful during and after an emergency. Prepare to be calm and resilient by practicing a positive outlook. Find ways that can help you manage stress. Establish healthy routines for sleep, exercise, and healthy eating. Increase patience with yourself and others. Connect with others for strength and hope. And practice living off your disaster supplies over a weekend and identify any gaps in your preparations. And because this is personal, I'm just going to ask you to consider yourself. What's one way you might increase your emotional response this next week? There are a number of ways you can build skills that can be helpful for yourself and family during and after an emergency. You might also want to be a resource in your neighborhood. So in that case, looking at Module 4 would be the place to go. Identify and develop skills and resources that you are willing to share. Well, maybe taking a mental health first aid class. Take a wilderness first aid class. Take a CPR class. Or join a CERT team, Community Emergency Response Team. And then every year in October, participate in the Great Oregon Shakeout at work or with your neighbors. So it's time to get ready. And we have some really great resources for you. We've already gotten feedback on a number of these freestanding publications outside of the actual modules, preparing for the Cascadia Subduction Zone Event modules, that any of these other publications, and then the last one is actually a video presentation, that they've been very useful for others to advance their preparedness. We give very useful tips, we've been told. So we hope that you'll access them at that webpage link. We have a short link, Beeves at Cascadia Prepare. Well, I should say /Beeves /Cascadia Prepared. And you can see there's beav.es. And once you find that webpage, be sure and bookmark it or favorite it. So I'm drawing to a close here in my initial remarks. I want to leave plenty of time for discussion time and questions. And if you want to have any additional information or have any other questions, you can see my email address there, glenda.hyde@oregonstate.edu.
I did put in the chat the link to the city's Corvallis emergency response team. We provide training through the fire department for CERT, and Dave Busby is the contact for that. So if you're interested, you could go to that webpage and learn more. There's a register online link as well on that page.
Yeah, and if any of you live outside of Benton County, be sure and contact your local county emergency manager's webpage to see what kind of resources they have available for you as well.
And we're open to questions. So if you want to ask a question, please feel free to unmute and ask or type it in the chat. I know that I saw their information that you have something related to working with older adults and caregivers.
Yes.
Do you have any information you could share about that? I know that I have two elderly family members that I have responsibilities for and would like any suggestions. They both live alone.
Well, I'm just going to tell you to watch the webinar because my colleague Lauren Kramer is the specialist in this, and I wouldn't want to leave anything out.
Okay.
It's a really great presentation that she did for the Rural Communities Organization, I think it was. And so sorry to pass the buck on that one. I have watched it, and this is a community that we're very concerned about, especially on the coast. And there's some really hard messages that are being delivered to families right now that if their loved one is living in the tsunami inundation zone, that unless they both want to die, they just cannot risk going to go get them out of that area. There just isn't going to be enough time. Medications is really important to make sure that you help them connect with their doctor on getting enough medications for an extended sheltering in place. That is what our emergency managers are hoping that most Oregonians can do. But the Willamette Valley is at much of the Willamette Valley is at high risk for liquefaction. And if you've seen the photos that have come out of New Zealand's most recent earthquakes, where there are cars that are stuck in now dried mud, okay, halfway through a sinkhole in a street, you know, that those liquefaction events are really unusual. You need to have 50% water and 50% of this silty soil, and as it's been shaken for 5 to 7 minutes, it's going to get really polished, and you end up with something that looks like wet beach sand but acts like quicksand. Okay, so many buildings, older buildings from before 1993 could be built on top of these liquefaction areas and without any earthquake considerations. And some still are built in these areas, and they could be surrounded by water for a period of time without being able to get in or out of these kind of little islands. And so I know in Benton County, you have a few of those locations.
One of the questions we have is, how do you get insurance to cover those extra meds that you need for emergency preparedness?
Yeah, I would contact your insurance company and ask what their recommendation is. I think there's basically one carrier, but I contacted my insurance company and they referred me to the insurance company. I think it's American. Oh, I'm sorry. I just like remembering what it is. But, I wanted to say American Model or something like that. But I was surprised it's not very expensive. about $130, and it would be $30 less if I had my water heater secured to the wall. Apparently that causes quite a bit of damage in earthquakes. You can avoid that by securing it so it's upright, and also elevated in some areas where you might have more flooding expected.
The survival kit, is that what's on that picture with the peanut butter or applesauce and boxes of
Yeah,
soup?
this is one of my colleagues put this display together. You know, you can see where it looks like they're going to have spaghetti for 3 days in a row for lunch and dinner, but it's meant to be for a family of 4. This is kind of what it would look like, you know, and everybody's going to have different tastes, needs, wants, desires. You definitely don't want to surprise a 3-year-old with new food, you know, in emergency if you can help it. But, you know, having dried food, having canned food, having, you know, and if, you know, just when the electricity goes off, you want to be sure and utilize the foods that are either in your refrigerator or your freezer. If your freezer's full, you can utilize that food, or it will store for 2 whole days, 48 hours. If it's half full, it'll only be 24 hours before everything's thawed out and traveling into the temperature danger zone. Not everything that's in your freezer is at risk for being thrown away immediately. For instance, if you freeze nuts, you know, they're going to still be fine without freezing. It's just that that's going to prolong their storage time. You can fill plastic food, safe jars or bottles and with water. And as you're pulling things out of your freezer throughout the year, you can add some of those things in. And so when you do have a power outage, you will have water that's safe to drink, you know, that's been thawed out, but it's also helping you save money to operate your freezer, because it costs more when it's to keep everything cold when it's only half full. And then during a disaster, it will stay frozen longer. But you want to utilize those up first before you dig into your other food supplies.
I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. Any other questions? Or go ahead, Glenda.
Yeah, we've been talking to all kinds of people about their ideas. And so we've tried to share useful information with you guys through these publications that you've seen throughout this slideshow.
Someone noted that earthquakes often cause fires with broken gas pipes, and it's important for everyone to know where to turn off their gas supply.
That is true. That's addressed in module 3.
Yeah, and I know the CERT goes over that training, and they actually give their CERT folks a tool to use for turning off the gas, because sometimes it's not the same little screwdriver.
Yeah, you want to be sure and avoid any risk of sparking, and so that special tool will not spark when you put it against the metal from the gas turnoff valve. And if you don't have the special tool, you can still take a wrench and cover it with some kind of rags or fabric, you know, so that you don't have direct contact metal to metal.
Excellent. Any other thoughts or questions?
You know, if you're on natural gas, you don't want to turn it back on until the emergency manager tells you to. Or someone comes out to do the inspection and let you know about it. So I was kind of hoping people would unmute. And is that something we can do in this webinar?
Yeah, you can unmute.
Yeah, and if you want to have discussions, we can certainly do that. How do we get insurance to cover those meds? I would talk to your doctor and see what's going on with that subject line. You can also check with your insurance company and see what they say. But there are some exceptions that are being developed or are in place. So I would keep checking back. Just let them know you're interested in case they have some news about and further developments.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, just know that you can go to the beeves.cascadia preparation or
Prepare.
Cascadia Prepare to
Mhm.
get more details and handouts to help you build your home for preparing for the any disaster. And then know that the city has resources as well as the county and the county extension. So you can always just Google and things will pop up to help you out.
So I'm wondering if you guys would help me with understanding the value of this very short class to help make improvements by filling out a short survey. And if you can remember it or type it out and then copy and paste it into the survey, it might be easier. But if you just go to this, I will put it in the chat. How's that? Or not?
I'm
Oops.
doing it. Oh, I was putting it in the chat if you want to.
Okay. I'm sorry.
What was the, yeah,
Hold
I
on.
just need the very last one. PMD.
There we go.
Ah, good. I can see it now.
Thank you. So I'm really interested to know about the preparations that any of you, I mean, never waste a great group that's got an interest in your topic. I'm wondering what kinds of things you need or want to know, or things you'd like to share, any tips that you have. Anybody be willing to do that?
Go ahead.
This is Ron Larson. You know, the old camp stoves we used for a lot of camping, and maybe we have retired from that, but whether it's the gasoline, the white gas, so-called the old Coleman style stoves, or the small propane little green cylinders, which are pretty small, you know, you should keep those stoves around and keep them working. When you take the grab a bag and you've got canned food, and some of that really needs to be cooked because, you know, spaghetti isn't very good if you can't get it cooked. Rice isn't very good until you get it cooked. Whatever it is, it becomes more palatable to eat it if you can get it heated and maybe simmered a while, so it's shall we call it done and not hard and crunchy, and you can't eat something that's not soaked and cooked a while. So make sure you got a pot. You know, a one pot meal serves lots of people. It is easy to do. So select the foods you can kind of stick in a pot and maybe cook it one time or in two pots. Keep it simple. Keep the old camp stove around, and each year make sure it keeps working. Yeah, practice. Make sure it is working. That's a really good tip. Thanks for sharing that, Ron. A hot meal also really raises people's spirits and can help them get through some tough times. So thanks for sharing that about getting a meal together in a pot. So some people are doing a lot of freeze drying. And one thing that we should remember is that our bodies are not really programmed for this particular type of preserved food. And you really need to have a lot of extra water to process them properly. So they don't shrink up like what we would expect in dehydrated foods. So they don't necessarily save a lot of space, because it just, you know, like you can dehydrate lasagna, for instance, you know, and it just stays in that same shape. And then you pour water over it, but you still need more water to digest it properly and have your own digestive system function properly. Okay, just a extra
quart of water or two that you're going to need if you're going to rely heavily on freeze-dried foods. Anybody else have a tip to share?
Okay. The survey says it goes to the U of Georgia website. Is that correct, Glenda?
Yes, it is. They
Okay.
are housing this
Survey tool.
survey for us. Yeah.
Awesome.
We're part of a national pilot to collect this kind of data for all family community health programs or family and consumer science programs.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
Someone suggested ready.gov also has resources.
We did not reinvent the wheel for this project. So we are totally aware of FEMA, Red Cross, and we want everyone else to be aware of them too. But most importantly, your emergency managers are the ones that are going to be making lots of great decisions on behalf of your communities, and you need to be connected with them in whatever way, as either recipients of information or people that might be assisting in some of the ways that have been suggested already with some of the classes that are available. A class that I found really valuable was the psychological first aid class that is available through Coursera. And it's actually taught by a professor from Johns Hopkins. And the thing that made it so different for the learning style that I have is that there was actually a lot of role playing by this professor with community members, let's say, okay, to show how the different steps that can be taken actually can play out for good or for improvement. Okay, so I would highly recommend that. Just helping people that are in shock, to get grounded and help them understand that they can still make decisions and that there's a lot of things that they forget. And then some of the questions you can ask can help them move forward. So specifically for disasters is what this training's for, but that was one I found extremely helpful and useful already.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, it looks like we're not very chatty today, but we did get a few comments, and we did get some more links for in the chat for folks. So I just want to thank you all for coming. Thank Glenda for sure for sharing this information with us and helping us try to get a little bit ahead of the game before something bigger happens to us. I know for some of us, we may not think we're going to be around when Cascadia hits, but those wildfires can move fast. So having that to-go kit with your papers ready to grab is probably a really good idea, just in case it gets the disaster moves fast with fire.
Yeah, boy, my heart goes out to you guys with fires. I know you had these horrific experiences in the valley that we haven't experienced for hundreds of years, I think. I live on the east side of the Cascades, so we have a little bit different situation where I live. We've had them for 30 years, but not with all the toxic chemicals in them like you guys experienced. Those red skies are red for a reason. They're dangerous toxic air. So I'm hoping that, there's work being done right now to do more for smoke education, and lots of different things are occurring with some of these grants that are coming out, to get more air filters out to people. So be sure, if you do have an air purifier or air filter, that you get the smoke grade purifier rather than just the filter that comes with it if you've purchased one. Yeah, those collect some of those extremely harmful particles, whereas the others collect the ash in more technical terms, the particulate matter PM10 size, and then the little teeny tiny PM 2.5 are the ones that go all the way to the far reaches of your lungs, you know, and then can get into your blood system. So I want to make sure people can stay as healthy as possible, especially with indoor air quality. All right.
All right.
Thank you so
Well,
much, people.
thank
and,
you.
Look forward to see you again sometime. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.